Folks, it's Sam, where the fun never ends, talking about the Manic full moon in Virgo, April 12th. Full moon in Virgo, Chitra Nakshatra. You see it's right here at the end of Virgo, about 28, 29 degrees. The sun is about to change signs to go into Aries, and right at that junction point between Virgo and Libra, we have a full moon, and that full moon is going to be, empowering us to try to manage and balance and harmonize the sea of chaos that we see up there in Pisces. That's why it says emotional spreadsheets in a sea of chaos. And also this Virgo says budget, Pisces says bless it. That's kind of the thing in a nutshell. And I'm going to be talking about this today. Also, I am reminding people that you can get this Saturn in Pisces free web class. If you haven't gotten it yet, please go there, saturnshift.com. It's a free 90-minute web class that I already did, where I not only talk about the Saturn shift in Pisces in general, but I also talk about Sadhisati, what the Sadhisati really means, Saturn in relationship to the moon, and for all 12 signs, so even including your moon sign. And the other thing that I'm doing is I'm offering these relationship assessments as well. You can go to this website, relationshipastrology.net. Of course, the links will be below. And now is a great time to really understand your relationship style with Venus exalted. It's going to be in its exaltation sign until almost June. So it's a perfect time to really understand your relationship style, your projections and things like that and whatnot. So, but right now we have business to take care of with this Manic full moon that we're dealing with. So you could see this is not only a full moon opposite the sun, but it's joined Ketu. We see Ketu here looming in the background on this image. Ketu is this serpent body without the head, because the head is, wouldn't you know, Rahu. So the Rahu head is up here in Pisces, going around with a bunch of ideas, sort of devouring things externally in Pisces. But, Rahu has been there for quite a while. He went there in December of 2023. So Rahu is starting to finish his disruption, his distortion in Pisces, where he's trying to get us, as it says, bless it. Pisces has been trying to get us to find the blessings in life, find the things that are not of this world, that are not just about all the Virgo things, the budget and the problems and the life on earth. That's what Virgo is very much. And by the way, as you see, if you like this content, please subscribe and get notified, and also leave a positive comment. But Rahu has been up there obsessing over the blessed part, as a lot of the external expectations of the world kind of dissolve. And here, as I'm recording this on April 10th, 2025, we're seeing tons of disillusion, tons of wealth and values and budgets dissolving. We don't need to look very far than even the stock market recently, but it's not just the stock market. It's what the stock market portends, what it is. Again, we can write it off. I'm not heavily in the stock market, and people are like, oh, that doesn't matter to average people. What it matters, though, is on speculation, people who make a living learning where these things are going, and gigantic trends like that, particularly when they make sense and we understand why, are ominous indicators of things. Because what just happened, especially as the American president opened up this trade war with the world, basically, and it sent everything into a chaotic kind of sea of chaos in a lot of ways. Now, whatever you think it might lead to, whether you think it might actually be something eventually beneficial or whatever, is not my point here. However, I will redound to what most people say, and that whatever the plan is, if there is one, this is not a very good execution of it, because you can't keep saying tariff the world, particularly based on numbers that aren't even trade deficits. And then, no, now I'm going to take them off, but I might put them again in 90 days or whatever all this is. And so this sea of chaos was kind of known. And myself, and I'm not even going to take credit because every astrologer and even every person has been speculating for a long time. I started saying it back last year when I saw Saturn and Rahu were going to join in Pisces. I was like, financial crisis. One of the biggest, the dissolving of structure, of money, of assets, of hard, the support, which is really what Saturn is. Saturn is the thing that we are speculating. We're projecting into the future, like what's it going to look like in a few months or maybe even next week, because I'm committed to a certain like investment strategy or this thing or that thing. And now it's joined Rahu in Pisces. As soon as it went into Pisces, as soon as Rahu went into Pisces, this is when these policies came. So again, I'm just using this as an external reference point. This sea of chaos right now, but opposite that now we're feeling, it says emotional spreadsheets. Those of you who know me know that I use the spreadsheets with Virgo a lot. I always say, Virgo is like spreadsheets of problems, right? Pisces is where we don't, where we're kind of very tolerant to problems that just roll off. Virgo is like, you want problems? I got all the problems organized, collated, categorized. I got a whole spreadsheet full of problems. And by the way, it's why I talk about Venus. It's Venus's exaltation sign is Pisces. That's why Venus is exalted in Pisces, where we find beauty and happiness in everything, in all things. Everything blurs together. It's like everything is beautiful, right? Very famous song from the early 70s, I think. Everything is beautiful in its own way, right? That's Venus in Pisces, right? The reason Venus is debilitated in Virgo is because everything is flawed in some way. And I can find it, and I can find a lot of flaws. That's Virgo. But again, that's not to be critical, because they each have their function. Like it says here, Virgo says budget, Pisces says bless it. Think about that contrast. If you're trying to make a budget because you want to have money to live and sustain your life, you want all that Virgo energy. You want the spreadsheet, you want the budget, you want the expense report, the expense account. And by the way, these are the things that are lacking right now, even in the example I used relative to this trade thing that's going on. The spreadsheets don't make sense. Holding up that placard with had all those numbers is a perfect example of Rahu and Pisces, where this Virgo, and by the way, look at all the scrutiny now that's coming, all this Virgo scrutiny on this Pisces, like budget, dissolving of wealth. We had trillions of dollars just dissolve, just disappear. This is Saturn, Rahu, and Pisces like you've never seen. By the way, I talked about those things. I've been talking about them many times, but here, Saturn in Pisces web class, I talked about this dissolving of structure, boundaries, money. So again, that's what I'm saying. I'm not, I predicted it. Everybody could have predicted this thing, right? And exactly how it played out, almost right on cue. Saturn, Rahu, and Pisces immediately, and we have this confusing, but where we're playing with everybody's money, the global economy, holding up this placard, which makes no sense. They're not trade deficits. That even that board that the president held up had how much money we spend relative to how much money other countries spend. That's not a deficit. That's called commerce. For example, it would be as if I thought, like if you've ever bought a course from me, that would mean that I would retaliate against you because you bought more from me than I bought from you. Or no, like you retaliate against me because you've bought things from me and I didn't buy anything from you. If you buy something from me and I don't buy anything from you, that's not a deficit. You paid for what you wanted and got it, and I gave it to you. This is called commerce. And we're going to have a deficit with every country because we have the most money. This is the USA, the most consumers, and we buy the most stuff. So we're going to have what he calls deficit, this whole thing This is where this line, you might be wondering, where does he come up with this? Canada's been ripping us off, Mexico ripping us off. Now, of course, there are some tariff policies that could be changed, of course. But this whole thing of ripping us off is just a complete failure to understand what he's even looking at. No one's ripping us off because we buy more of their goods. They're giving us what we want, and we're paying for it. We don't make everything, right? We don't make maple syrup. Okay, so we buy it from Canada. They don't make, I don't know, avocados. So they buy it, but whatever. And we're going to buy more. So again, this is the basic, it's simple stuff, right? And based on this conflated idea right now, we're seeing all this dissolving of wealth and money and these confusing, rambling ideas. Even his cabinet, like they come out, they're contradicting themselves every day. There was a guy in front of Congress yesterday, and the guy who was testifying before Congress didn't know that Trump had just delayed the current, trade war for 90 days. He didn't even know it while he was testifying in front of Congress. And he was like, do you know that the global tariffs have been delayed for 90 days? And his own cabinet didn't know. And then the other guy goes on TV and says, oh, this has been the plan the whole time. I mean, it's just, so again, this is the Pisces confusion chaos. But it's not just confusion chaos. It's affecting all of our plans and money and value of the dollar and reserve currencies and all of this stuff. So again, I'm just pointing out this sea of chaos of Pisces right now, this eclipse that just happened, and we're still in the eclipse vortex, and it's not really going to close until the next new moon in Aries. So the next new moon in Aries will close this Pisces eclipse window, but we're still in the eclipse cycle. It just happened May 29th. So this is only a couple weeks later, right? And so again, opposite that, and the full moon is how we feel about what's going on. So now we're feeling all this Virgo stuff. We're feeling all this Virgo stress and worry, but we're feeling it because it's a full moon, right? It's the full moon. It's not where the sun is, because this is why people always, I always make sure to tell people that full moons are a reflection back of the sun. Wherever the sun is, that's what's driving the energy at that time. And the moon is how we feel about things. So this one is in Virgo, and it's joined Ketu, and it's Chitra Nakshatra, which is the celestial architect. And I'll talk about that in a second. But first, I did want to also give a quick update about these Venus readings.
Every person that you have a relationship has one thing in common: you. If you want to really understand your connections and your relationships and your agreements that you make with others, the first place to start is Venus. And right now in April 2025, with Venus in Pisces in its exalted sign, but also joined Rahu, the North Node, and Saturn and Mercury, also in an exchange with Jupiter, this Venus energy is very active right now. And I'm sure you've noticed how you're reevaluating the agreements that you make, how you might give up too much ground in the agreement and then have to fight to try to get it back and then feel very unbalanced and whatnot. I am offering, and I have been offering for years, relationship assessments where I start with Venus, and then I also look at your seventh house ruler. I'll look at your current relationship or a relationship that you want me to discuss, and I'll evaluate these things, and especially your place in the partnerships. Because like I say, all relationships have you as a common denominator, and most of the time people overlook this part: your capacities, your projections, your illusions, and how to really understand those things, and also the type of partnerships that you have. And if you want me to look at a specific one, I'll do that as well. But there's never been a better time than right now with Venus exalted, but feeling this kind of pressure to get that type of look. So if you want to do that, I do have a discount on these readings right now. So check it out, and I hope to help you with this very soon.
Indeed, it is very important. And I'm about to stop the readings because so many people register and I only have so much time. But anyway, check that out if you like. So this Virgo and this budget in response to Pisces says, oh, bless it. And again, this is a kind of spiritual community thing. Spiritual community where it's like, oh, it'll all work out. We're finding our alternative solutions. Oh, the news. I don't pay attention to the news, although people pay just enough attention to the news to still have opinions, but then not really want to let it soil them. And I get it. I don't look, I talk about these things, but I go meditate and in my own world most of the time as well. I'm not, beholden to my whole, identity doesn't revolve around this stuff either, but especially because it's fascinating with the astrology. And of course, like everyone, I want to see people treated fairly and whatnot. So Pisces just says, okay, it'll all work out. And Virgo says, well, wait a minute, we need to budget. We need to have our ducks in order. But it's not just that. On that spiritual level, Virgo is also the necessary, like, spiritual practice. Pisces isn't really spiritual practice. It's inspiration. I'm so, you've heard me talk about a lot lately these days, particularly because of all the Pisces energy, that all of these elevated emotions, oh, that's not really spirituality. It's how you feel. And we all want to feel good. We want to have this elevated feeling. And it's like, oh, yes, it's just so spiritual. It's spiritual when you bring in practices. And where do you think the practices come in from, Miss Virgo? Because Virgo, again, it's ruled by Mercury. It's talking about doing all of these little details instead of just worrying about spreadsheets, worrying about money and all that stuff, which is the hyper Virgo energy right now. And it has been also for this whole year and a half or so, a great contrast point of Pisces, the opposite, the thing that actually brings the Pisces blessed into fruition. Because otherwise, Pisces is definitely the sign of like spiritual bypassing, projecting, wanting to just kind of tune it all out because, oh, it'll be someone else's problem. But that's kind of like living on the 10th floor of a burning building while the floors below you are on fire and you're up here going, oh, well, who cares? It's their problem. The building is, floors 1 and 2 are on fire, but yeah, someone will take care of it. It's not going to affect me. Yes, it is. You're still in the building. Especially these days, we're all connected. So Pisces can just be this bypassing. But Virgo is what brings your spiritual practices into focus, where, again, they're very specific things we do. And they're not hard, but we have to do them. And in some ways, we have to do them in the right order, in the right measure. And we have to be willing to sit there, be patient. And again, Virgo is an earth sign. It's about bringing the energy into that body. And then, for example, pranayama, alternate nostril breathing, right? We have this whole thing now, breath work, and everybody has some version of breath work. I'm not saying it's not good. It's always going to be good to pay attention to your breath. So there's always going to be a benefit. But sometimes I see a lot of types of breath work that, like, where does this come from? Oh, it's just something I came up with. All right, well, be careful. Be careful launching or teaching. I mean, do it yourself, but then people start teaching their own kind of breath work, and it's like you're not a yogi. You're playing with people's consciousness or whatever. So make sure you know what you're doing, because we don't have to reinvent things like breath work. It's called pranayama. It's been around forever, and it works. But you got to sit there and do it precisely. It requires a little more of that discipline and focus. And, and it's about that receptivity. And when we do it properly, correctly, and these are all Virgo principles, time-tested, sensible, devoted, there's a whole system connected to it. Sankhya philosophy, yoga, the inner mechanics of the chakras, and again, the nadis, and all of this. People can Virgo out on it. You can geek out on all this stuff. And sometimes that happens. People are utterly geeked out on all the Virgo stuff. And then they kind of miss the bigger picture. They'll like pester you over every minute detail as if the point is to just, again, have a spreadsheet of pranayama. No, it's then you got to sit there and do it, right? So again, everything has an extreme. So the real harmonizing energy right now is to harmonize that Virgo precision. Is a good word for Virgo at best. Precise thinking, right? But intelligent, variety, flexibility. And that's ultimately what creativity is, right? That's why Mercury is probably the most creative generally, because Mercury wants to figure things out and then, oh, now I can do this, right? And with Virgo, it's very creative internally, energetically, physically, because Virgo is connected to the body intimately. And that includes things like, for example, diet, what you're consuming. My spirituality is, getting high or that's part of it. Again, now I can see all the judgment. Oh, you shouldn't judge. The yogis got high. Okay, I get it. But we're not yogis. We're not doing what they did when they got high and smoked hash and all that. So believe me, I've been around this block for decades. But what we take into our mouth, it's very hard to have a clear, pure sattvic state of mind if we're, again, even drinking a little bit of alcohol, even a little bit of some kind of, self-medicating with pot, or now there's gummies. What are they called? I don't even remember. Edibles. I was thinking chewables. I don't know. So again, and people can do those things for many reasons, because they need to calm down their anxiety, right? Again, we do a lot of things in response to anxiety, and Virgo, it plays in there. So again, this isn't judgment coming at you. This is what a yogi would tell you. This is what a guru would tell you. In fact, my Guru Amma has said these things before when people have asked. I try to be spiritual, but then I like to have a drink, and I like to do this, and I like to enjoy life. And Mama's like, enjoy life. You don't have to. You don't have to be spiritual. You don't have to do anything. It's simply a choice. Choose to do it or don't do it. Eventually, probably it will stop, because you'll see that the enjoyment comes at a price, and you don't want to pay the price anymore. And you realize it's much better to enjoy with, in clarity, than a temporary, situation. So again, this is why Virgo is very much about all of these lifestyle things first, right? And then consciousness starts to change. Then we can actually meditate. Then we can actually feel that connection to the Pisces transcendence, right? And so again, this is Chitra Nakshatra, which is the part of Virgo that also bridges Libra. So Chitra is the celestial architect, where we build a structure, where we build a meaningful, I'm doing my hair so much, I got the frizzies today, where we build a bridge and a structure into which consciousness can ascend. It's not just, oh, you're good at architecture, or you're, although it does show that. But the other symbol of Chitra is a diamond, like a faceted gem, where the gem is this solid earth structure, because gems come from the earth, and it's cut precisely, faceted to gleam and throw off, raise, little rainbows and things, like when you see a beautiful gem. So Chitra is that, and it's the celestial architect, Vishwakarma, who is the ruler. So it's where Vishwakarma is the one who actually built the cosmos. So there's enormous amount of regenerative power in this nakshatra. And rather than getting, sort of overwhelmed by the world and the difficulty, we can build that sensible structure, but it's going to come down to precise methods, techniques. And again, this is one of the things that there's a lot of illusion around these things now, in this sense of, this sort of idea of like, well, my yoga is this, my spirituality is this. Again, it's not Sam's judgment saying you're wrong or you're bad, because everyone is spirit. But everything isn't a spiritual practice. It's basically, instead of saying my spirituality is this, it's better to say what makes me feel good is this elevated concept makes me feel good. That's fine, but no, that's what it is. And it's fine to have that. But where it can be confusing, and again, you don't do what I do for a living every day. I have people constantly confused. I'm a spiritual person. I've always been related to spirituality, and then, but this thing, this problem, that thing, this problem, this attachment, this thing, I'm stuck in this, and because they're using these words indiscriminately. That's not spirituality, that's feeling. And you've been very, tuned into how you feel and wanting to have that higher connection, and you can feel that God consciousness, and you can feel that connection to higher wisdom. That's what it is, and that's great. But it's a feeling. It becomes more than that when it's not just a feeling, but when it's connected to the consciousness behind. And the way that happens is through the practices. Because when you do things like yoga and authentic breath and pranayama and mantra, you're awakening the seer, the one who is the observer, the witnessing consciousness. The witnessing consciousness is the one who sees all the thoughts moving. If you were just the thoughts and the feelings, how would you know? You would just be running, you'd just be riding the train of thought and emotion. But there's a seer behind it who sees all of that, who doesn't have all of that, who is detached from it. Detached doesn't mean cold. It means that you're witnessing, you're observing that. That's the self. And that's the big difference even between us and the animals. Animals are loving, kind, but the difference is they don't have consciousness, reflective consciousness. They're just living every emotion, feeling, thought in real time. There's nothing observing. They're not observing their consciousness. They're observing us, actually, like if you think about a dog or a cat. But they're not reflecting and contemplating their existence. We are. And the thing that's contemplating and observing the existence and is aware that even though I'm doing these, even though I've always been spiritual, I'm still sad or blah, blah, blah. The one who feels it is the self, which is behind all of that. And you don't bring clarity to that until you connect with it through those practices. So this Pisces Virgo axis is what that is. Again, the Pisces is that, yes, I'm connected to everything. And yes, you are. And yes, you feel it. So I'm not diminishing that. But the Virgo is the part also that's stressed out and saying, well, if I feel all of that, why am I still so worried about everything in the world? And needing to do some gummies and some self-medicating stuff and just trying to find something to feel good. The reason is because that's not the point. The point is to do the practices. That's what the spirituality is. And then that then that Virgo, restlessness has a channel and an effective channel, because that's the thing about Virgo too. Once we find something that works, that Virgo part of us will go into it and we'll do that practice. We'll change that diet. We'll manage and organize all those routines. For example, an altar is a perfect example where we organize our inspirations into like one place and we put that altar together. And this is why, again, if you want to see a perfect Virgo Pisces amalgam of energy, look at a Vedic fire ceremony, all the little details they do, all the mudras, all the stuff to bring the energy in, all this stuff here on earth, all those details, all those mantras, those specific sounds that should be said as a particular way and all that kind of stuff by them. On our level, we don't need to worry so much about that. But all of those details in order to connect with the highest. That's the Virgo Pisces axis, in its highest sense. And these eclipses in the Virgo Pisces axis are really what's happening now for all of us. So again, one more prompt. If you do want to understand this Pisces situation with this Saturn and Pisces, if you haven't gotten that yet, go to saturnshift.com for sure. And also, like I said, the reading on your relationships, if that's interesting to you as well, that would be great. I would love to help you try to understand your agreements now. So thanks a lot. For a limited time, I'm offering 10 hours of masterclasses, Yoga and Vedic Astrology, Quantum Vedic Astrology, and Spiritual Astrology Masterclass. These are 3 great courses that will really help you a lot. Now, in case you don't know who I am, I taught the Astroved certification course, Dattatreya Shiva Baba, in 2010. Ravi Shankar published my book in 2018.
I've been around for decades. I've been teaching these great classes, and if you go to VedicAstrologyEssentials.com, you can get this 90% off discount of these 3 great classes, more than 10 hours, guaranteed value. You can check this out. These 3 classes will give you all the necessary tools to begin to learn Vedic astrology. Please find me on YouTube at Sam Jeppy, Vedic Astrology Teacher. On there since 2007, thousands of hours of classes. Also on Facebook at Astrology Teacher, tons of articles updated regularly, and I'm on Instagram at Vedic Astrology 108, ongoing updates and interaction.